Chasing is energy born from a sense of lack. When you desire something too desperately, that energy quietly tells the universe, I don't have it yet, and anything born from absence can only create more of it. Think about it. The harder you try to hold on to someone, the quicker they slip away. The more you wait for that message, the longer it takes to come. The more you crave approval, the more invisible you begin to feel. This isn't because you're undeserving, it's because your energy speaks louder than your words. Even in silence, your vibration whispers the truth your mind tries to hide. You don't attract what you think about. You attract what you are. When your energy chases, it repels. When your energy rests, it receives. The moment you stop grasping, stop controlling, stop begging reality to change, you shift. You stop radiating need and start radiating power. You no longer need to attract because you become the attraction. Everything, every thought, every emotion, every heartbeat vibrates. You're not just flesh and logic, you're a field of living frequency. Once you understand that, life stops feeling random, because everything in your experience mirrors the energy you emit. Fear draws fear. Doubt attracts situations that make you question yourself. But when your inner world changes, reality begins to follow. You don't reshape life through control. You reshape it through alignment. It's like tuning a radio. You can't demand the station to change. You adjust your dial. When you tune into I don't have, you get more lack. When you tune into I already am, the universe responds with abundance. The law is simple. What you embody, you echo. What you echo, you experience. Carla believed she'd found her soulmate. Every conversation felt electric, like destiny had finally answered her prayers. But slowly, he began to drift. His messages grew shorter, his warmth turned cold, and the harder she tried to hold him, the faster he faded. She didn't realize she wasn't chasing him. She was chasing her reflection. The universe had sent her a mirror, not a man. His distance wasn't rejection, it was revelation. It showed her exactly where she still believed she wasn't enough. Late one night, heartbroken and exhausted, she finally asked, "Why does this hurt so deeply?" And a quiet voice within whispered, "Because you've made him the proof of your worth." That realization shattered her illusion. She saw that love born from fear becomes attachment, and attachment disguised as devotion always leads to suffering. So she stopped begging the mirror to change. Instead, she changed herself. She stopped chasing text messages and started chasing peace. She stopped praying for his return and started praying for her healing. And then everything changed. Not because he came back, but because she came home to herself. When Carla stopped running after love, love began running toward her, not as a person, but as peace. Every human carries an unseen world, memories, fears, and emotions we hide from others and even from ourselves. This is what I call the shadow self. It's not your enemy. It's simply the side of you waiting to be seen. When we deny that part of us, it doesn't vanish. It speaks through our relationships, our triggers, our heartbreaks. Life keeps placing mirrors before you until you finally stop blaming others and start listening. That's why some people feel magnetic yet painful. They carry the exact vibration that matches your unhealed wounds. They come not to destroy you, but to reveal you. Shadow work isn't about shame. It's about honesty. It's meeting the parts of you that say, I'm scared, I'm angry, I feel forgotten. And instead of running, you say, I see you. Because the moment you meet yourself with compassion, your energy transforms. The pain you once suppressed becomes power. The rejection that haunted you becomes redirection. You stop chasing love that hurts, and you start attracting peace that heals. True healing isn't becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were before the world taught you to doubt it. And when you return to that truth, you don't need to force anything. Your very presence becomes magnetic. There comes a point when you've tried everything, planned, prayed, pushed, and still nothing moves. That's not failure. That's the universe asking you to surrender. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means finally releasing the illusion that you control every outcome. It's the moment you exhale and whisper, I trust that what's mine can't miss me. When you let go, your vibration shifts from tension to trust. The universe can finally do its work. Doors that stayed closed begin to open, not because you forced them, but because you stopped blocking them with fear. Divine timing isn't late, it's precise. Every delay has been protection. Every detour has been preparation. Every heartbreak has been a redirection toward alignment. You are not being punished, you are being positioned. When you stop chasing and start trusting, life rearranges itself in ways logic can't explain. The opportunities, the people, the moments, they appear exactly when you are ready, not when you are desperate. So pause, breathe, let life catch up with the version of you who no longer begs for what's already destined. Because the truth is simple, you don't have to force what's meant for you. You just have to become the person who's ready to receive it. There's a moment in everyone's life when you stop asking the world who you are. You stop waiting for validation, for someone to say you're enough, for proof that you belong. That moment, quiet, private, sacred, is when self-worth is reborn. Self-worth isn't confidence. Confidence is the mask we wear when we want to look strong. Self-worth is the foundation that stays even when the mask cracks. It's the unshakable knowing that even without applause, I matter. For years, you may have measured your value by what you achieved, who loved you, or what you lost. But life eventually strips away every false source of identity so that you can meet the real one underneath. It's painful. It feels like breaking. But it's actually a reintroduction. The universe reuniting you with your own power. Think about every season that made you doubt yourself, the job that ended, the person who walked away, the dream that failed. None of those were punishments, they were invitations. Each loss whispered, "Come home. Remember who you are," without the title, the label, the validation. The rebirth of self-worth begins when you no longer chase being chosen. You choose yourself. You stop begging for love and start embodying it. You stop asking for permission to exist and start showing up as evidence that you already do. When you truly see your own worth, everything external becomes optional. People's opinions lose their grip. Comparison dissolves. Rejection no longer defines you. It refines you. You start moving from proving to being. And something magical happens. When you live from that truth, the energy that once leaked through insecurity becomes power. Your presence changes rooms. You speak less, but your words carry more. You stop chasing opportunities because you are the opportunity. Self-worth doesn't make you arrogant, it makes you peaceful. You don't need to defend or explain. You trust that what's aligned will stay and what's not will drift without your resistance. This is what I call the quiet rise. No noise, no performance, no begging for attention, just alignment, just authenticity, just you. So if you feel like everything has been stripped away, don't panic. Sometimes life dismantles the version of you that's settled, so the real one can finally stand up. And when she does, when you do, the world feels it. Because the most powerful vibration on earth isn't success, beauty, or wealth. It's a person who finally knows their worth. When you stop chasing, you don't become empty. You become magnetic. Magnetism is born from alignment. It's the quiet confidence that doesn't scream, "Look at me." It simply whispers, "I'm here," and the world responds. You become magnetic the moment you stop acting from need and start living from truth. You no longer perform to impress. You no longer shrink to fit. You simply embody the frequency of peace, purpose, and presence. And that energy pulls what's meant for you closer. Look around. Everything in nature operates by magnetism. The planets stay in orbit because of invisible pull. The tide rises and falls because of unseen forces. Your life works the same way. When your inner world is aligned, the outer world arranges itself to match. Being magnetic doesn't mean sitting still doing nothing. It means every action is infused with intention, not desperation. It's sending the email because it feels right, not because you're afraid of missing out. It's walking away from what drains you, even when it scares you. It's trusting that your absence in the wrong place creates space for your presence in the right one. You become magnetic when your energy says, "I know my value." When you radiate calm instead of chaos, when you no longer need to prove your importance because you finally feel it in your bones. People will notice, they'll say you've changed, that you seem lighter, calmer, untouchable. What they're really feeling is your alignment. You've stopped pushing against life and started flowing with it. That's the secret of attraction. It's not about calling things in, it's about clearing what blocks them. Every doubt, every fear, every need for control, gone. You become a clear channel for everything good to reach you. And soon, opportunities arrive without force. People appear without effort. The right timing unfolds without your interference. Because magnetism isn't created, it's remembered. It was always within you, buried under noise, fear, and self-doubt. So, breathe, release the urge to chase, to force, to prove. Focus on your frequency. Be so at peace with who you are that life can't help but meet you there. Because when you embody truth, when you live in alignment, when your heart vibrates higher than your fear, the universe has only one possible response. It opens. For too long you believed survival was enough. You told yourself that if you could just make it through the next moment, just endure the next rejection, the next silence, the next uncertainty, you'd arrive at a place of rest. But survival is not what you were designed for. Survival is the baseline, expansion is the invitation. Imagine an insect inside a cocoon. It thrashes, it fights, it endures, but eventually something gives. The old form dissolves and the wings emerge. That transition is not comfortable. It is messy. It is surrender wrapped in dismantling. But on the other side is expansion, the life you've yearned for, the self you've always been beneath the bruises. You survived the job you hated, the relationship that drained you, the version of you that said, "I'll prove them wrong." You crawled out of that darkness. Now comes the question, will you stay in the hollow of your survival or rise into the fullness of your capacity? Expansion means you stop playing small. You're done shrinking so others can feel safe. You stop dimming your light so you don't blind someone else. You stop whispering one day and begin declaring, "Today I stand." Because you've walked through the storm, you know its language. You've worn the armor of perseverance. Now you cast it aside and walk with open arms. There's power in the scars you refuse to hide. Each one says, "I was here, I survived, I grew." And that growth isn't hidden, it is visible. It becomes your signature. When you release the old version of yourself who begged for scraps of approval, you open up to the version of yourself who commands respect simply by being present. In expansion, your energy field shifts. The vibration of "I just need to survive" evolves into "I'm built to thrive." That signal changes how you show up in meetings, in relationships, in the way you spend your time, in the projects you launch. All whispers of just enough fade. You raise your baseline. When you start operating from expansion, you make decisions differently. You don't ask, "Will this keep me safe?" anymore. You ask, "Will this expand me?" Some people will step aside. They were aligned with your survival mode, not your full potential. That's okay. The company of the new you is different. It requires courage. It requires boundaries. It requires refusing to settle. You may still face challenges. Expansion is not the absence of difficulty. It's the elevation of your capacity to handle it. You will meet resistance, even from the parts of you that once believed you were unworthy. The survival self will fight for its place. It will whisper, "This is too much, stay small." But you respond with compassion and clarity. "Thank you, I see you, but I'm choosing more." And what does more look like? More light, more presence, more authenticity, more ease. When someone enters your world, they feel calm, not chaotic. They feel strength, not struggle. They sense arrival, not anxiety. Because the field you're radiating has changed. You become expansion in motion. Your work expands, your relationships expand, your joy expands. You don't hustle harder, you align deeper. You don't chase bigger, you allow bigger to find you. And you don't become someone else. You become the most unfiltered version of who you always were. So if you find yourself whispering, "I just need to survive," hear this instead: you survived. Now live, not in the ashes of your past, but in the bloom of your becoming. Give yourself permission to expand, to let go of the safety nets that kept you hidden. To step into every room, not to be seen, but because you can no longer hide. The world doesn't just need you to survive, it needs you to expand. Because your presence becomes the invitation for others to rise. When you choose expansion, you shift not only your life, but you shift the vibration around you. You raise the baseline for everyone who dares to follow. And one day you'll look back and realize survival was just the contract. Expansion is the currency. Choose to cash it in. Choose to live out the fullness of your being. Because you once thought the fight was worth it just to keep going, but you were built for something far greater, to rise, to expand, and to become the demonstration of possibility for yourself and the world. If expansion is the rise, then flow is the rhythm. Flow is the state when you no longer battle life. You meet it with open arms. You no longer clutch your vision so tight you suffocate it. You release, you trust, you allow. Because you know now. The tide will carry you when you stop swimming upstream. Think of a river. It carves its way through rock over centuries, not through force, but through persistence and presence. The water doesn't scream, "Make way," it simply moves, adapts, continues. Flow is the art of being that river. When you're in flow, your energy no longer pulses with urgency. It pulses with alignment. Your actions become reflections of what's inside, not reactions to what's happening outside. You work, but you don't hustle to run away from something. You rest. But you're not still because you've been burned. You still because your heart says, "I'm here. This is enough." Flow is the dance between initiative and surrender. You start, you act, you create, and then you pause, you feel, you allow, you watch how the world responds, you move when your body says yes, you rest when your body whispers no. You trust your rhythm. In flow, detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. You no longer cling to the outcome, but you hold the vision. You plant the seed, water the soil, and then you walk away knowing the light will do the rest. You're no longer attached to when or how it grows. You're just committed to the depth of your presence while it does. Flow requires integrity. You don't skip steps. You don't ignore the inner whispers. You don't rush the season because you fear missing the boat. You flow with the boat. You trust its direction. You understand that some of the greatest breakthroughs happen in the quiet moments, the invisible ones, when you are not doing anything obvious, but you're doing something paramount, aligning yourself with your own truth. When you live in flow, your relationships change. You don't chase connection, you resonate. You don't correct or convince, you reflect. When you belong to yourself fully, others belong to themselves fully, without needing you to fix them, help them, save them. Because you're no longer built on filler, you're built on fullness. Flow doesn't mean you float through life untouched. It means when the waves come, you don't panic. You ride them. You trust your weight, your depth, your capacity. You're anchored. You're seated in the sea of your own being. And the current carries you, not because you're avoiding struggle, but because you're moving at the pace of your soul. In practical terms, you create a space of non-negotiables. Times when you retreat, reflect, regenerate. You build habits that aren't about pushing harder, but about thriving wiser. You ask yourself each day, am I acting from fear or from flow? And you choose the latter. You speak less about the storm. You talk more about how life feels now. You let your trajectory show up in your calm voice, steady gaze, and expansive energy. People begin to gravitate toward you, not because you marketed yourself, but because your field changed. Flow is magnetic. You become a center of stillness in a world of motion. You don't try to outrun the currents. You dive into them. You surrender to them. And as you do, what used to feel like coincidence begins to feel like orchestration. Every door that opens isn't just luck, it's timing. Every person who enters your space isn't just compatibility, it's resonance. Every goal you hit isn't just achievement, it's alignment. You're no longer climbing ladders you don't like, you're building bridges you're proud of. So if you're tired of the fight, of the hustle that leaves you empty, hear this: flow is your invitation. Not because you don't have to work. Yes, you still do. But your work is now guided by your inner being, not driven by your external fears. You are no longer at war with life, you're dancing with it. In the quiet of your presence, you feel it, the effortless momentum, the gentle tug, the effortless arrival. That's flow. And once you taste it, once you feel how expansive, how creative, how liberating it is, you'll never go back to survival mode. You've risen from survival. You've chosen expansion. You've stepped into flow, and now you stand in the stillness of who you truly are. Powerful, peaceful, and unbound. Let your energy speak before you say a word. Let your presence draw what aligns. You don't chase anymore because you've become the destination. Live from your center and watch how everything essential finds you. Because you already are what you've been searching for.